First in the headlines, a fiery move from Washington. President Donald Trump says the U.S. military has destroyed a Venezuela-based drug smuggling boat. Footage of the strike was later released online. In Asia, all eyes on Beijing. China marched the 80th Victory Day with its grandest military parade in decades, a massive display of power fresh from the CEO summit. Over Europe, peace remains on the agenda. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, alongside Switzerland's president, is pushing Geneva as a venue for possible Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks. Meanwhile, in South Asia, anger is brewing. India is facing heavy backlash over a new wave of Rohingya refugee deportations in Jammu, branded inhumane by human rights groups. Turning to the Americas, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum hails strong economic performance and deep U.S. ties in her very first government report. And back in Japan, a corporate storm. Suntory CEO Takeshi Ninami has resigned amid a police probe into alleged illegal supplements, shaking one of the country's.
On Tuesday, video published by President Donald Trump on his platform Truth Social shows the boat sailing in the Caribbean before being hit by an airstrike. In his post, the president wrote, and I quote, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters, transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action, end quote. The footage came shortly after Trump disclosed the attack during a White House briefing. He said drugs are flowing into the U.S. very heavily from Venezuela.
A lot of drugs in that boat, and there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time, and these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed the vessel was targeted in the southern Caribbean. As of now, Venezuela has not commented on the incident. The Pentagon has yet to release further details about the strike. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Valdivina Gracia, SMNA News.
Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum delivered her first government report on Monday, hailing strong economic performance, record foreign investment, and resilient international relations despite global challenges. Jillian Gutierrez for more details.
Speaking at the National Palace in Mexico City, Sheinbaum highlighted what she called a stellar moment for the country, pointing to 1.2% projected annual growth, record foreign direct investment surpassing $36 billion in the first half of the year, and one of the lowest unemployment rates worldwide at 2.7%. She also underscored a resilient peso, rising tourism, and significant reductions in poverty and inequality over recent years. On international affairs, Sheinbaum stressed the importance of constructive ties with the United States amid tariff tensions, while also expanding partnerships with Brazil, Canada, France, and the European Union. The president announced that United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio will visit Mexico on Wednesday to discuss security cooperation.
En 2 días recibiremos al secretario del Departamento de Estado de los Estados Unidos para acordar un marco de colaboración en materia de seguridad. Hemos dejado claro que la base de este entendimiento es la responsabilidad compartida, la confianza mutua, el respeto a la soberanía y territorialidad y la cooperación sin subordinación.
Sheinbaum, who became Mexico's first female president in October 2024, closed her report with a call to unity, declaring Mexico a free and sovereign nation committed to progress and equality. Jillian Gutierrez, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Meanwhile, more than 1,000 people are feared dead after a massive landslide wiped out an entire village in Sudan's western Darfur region earlier this week. The disaster struck Tarasin's village in the Mara Mountains. Footage shows home buried in debris, uprooted trees, and villagers searching through the mud for survivors. The Sudan Liberation Movement said all of Tarasin's residents, estimated at more than 1,000 people, perished with only one survivor found. Heavy rainfall late last month is blamed for the deadly landslide. The group has called on the United Nations and other agencies to help recover bodies still trapped under the rubble. The tragedy comes as Sudan struggles with torrential rains, floods, and a deepening civil conflict between rival forces. Amid growing concerns over questionable flood control projects, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. urged the newly elected officials of the League of
Napatupad ng pambansang pamahalaan at ng lalawigan at isiwalat natin kung may makikitang taliwas.
The president called on LPP officials to act as the conscience of government confronting deep-rooted issues and working to build a more transparent and accountable bureaucracy. The LPP, composed of all 82 provincial governors, operates under the mandate of Republic Act No. 7160 or the Local Government Code of 1991, which provides for the election of its regional and national executive board and a complete set of officers, led by the LPP president who presides over the General Assembly. For God and for my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Kerseling Catarong, SMNI News.
Coming up, all eyes on Beijing. China marks the 80th Victory Day with its grandest military parade in decades, a massive display of power fresh from the SCO summit. Over in Europe, peace remains on the agenda. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, alongside Switzerland's president, is pushing Geneva as a venue for possible Russia-Ukraine ceasefire talks. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
Back in the news, Indonesia's President Prabowo Subianto is in China for the 80th World War II commemoration parade, even as deadly protests continue back home. But his visit comes just days after he initially canceled the trip. The reason? Violent unrest across Indonesia, where protests over lavish perks for lawmakers spiraled after the death of a young delivery rider. At least 6 people have been killed during the demonstrations, the largest in Southeast Asia's biggest economy in years. Facing mounting anger, Prabowo revoked the controversial perks. State officials confirmed he left for China Tuesday evening and would return a day later. The protests have calmed somewhat in recent days, with rallies shrinking after the perks were scrapped, but the government has also deployed the military to the capital. Meanwhile, the United Nations is calling for a prompt, thorough and transparent investigation into alleged human rights violations, including the use of force against protesters. It's a big week for China. Fresh off the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, Beijing has staged its largest military parade in decades to mark the 80th anniversary of Victory Day. This report. China's parade for the 80th anniversary of Victory Day happened in Tiananmen Square with President Xi Jinping inspecting the troops and delivering a keynote address. As he spoke at the start of the parade, Xi told the world that humanity is once again faced with a choice between peace or war, dialogue or confrontation, win-win or zero-sum outcomes. The people firmly stand on the right side of history, on the side of civilization and progress, adhering to the path of peaceful development. Together with the peoples of all countries, a community with a shared future for mankind must be built. Over 70 minutes, China rolled out its newest military hardware, fighter jets, tanks, long-range missiles, and hundreds of domestically built aircraft and ground armaments. Later at his side, Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un as guests of honor, a powerful display of solidarity among 3 nations challenging the US-led world order. Also in attendance are the leaders from 26 countries across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America, including Iran's Masoud Pezeshkian, Zimbabwe's Emerson Mnangagwa, Slovakia's Robert Fico, and Serbia's Alexander Vučić. The parade commemorates the end of World War II and the Second Sino-Japanese War, but its symbolism today is unmistakable as China projects military might and global partnerships on the world stage. It was carefully choreographed moment, signaling Beijing's ambitions abroad and Xi Jinping's role as host to leaders defying the Western-led order. In Berlin, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is urging fresh momentum for peace in Ukraine. In a joint press conference with Switzerland's president, he proposed Geneva for possible ceasefire talks, despite U.S. President Donald Trump's own push to bring Putin and Zelensky to the table. Jane Cognita tells us more.
Speaking alongside his Swiss counterpart, Chancellor Friedrich Merz stressed the urgency of finding a path to peace in Ukraine.
Uns eint der Wille und die feste Absicht, alles zu tun, damit es bald einen Frieden zwischen Russland und der Ukraine gibt.
The German leader proposed Geneva as a possible location for ceasefire negotiations, adding he will raise the idea again this week with members of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. Swiss President Karin Keller-Sutter echoed the call, saying a fair peace process for Ukraine is vital for Europe's security.
Die Schweiz ist bereit, die Suche nach einer Friedenslösung mit ihren guten Diensten wie eben Gaststadtdiplomatie hier zu unterstützen, auch mit ihrer Expertise. Und wenn es dazu kommen sollte, auch entsprechende Gespräche in Genf aufzugleisen und abzuhalten.
Keller-Sutter confirmed her national security advisor remains in contact with both Ukraine and Russia, and that Ukrainian officials were recently in Switzerland. On other global conflicts, the 2 leaders said the situation in Israel and Gaza was not on their agenda. Their remarks follow recent meetings in Alaska and Washington, where United States President Donald Trump met separately with Russia's Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky and European leaders. So far, no direct presidential-level talks between Russia and Ukraine have been announced. Merz and Keller-Sutter said they will continue pressing international partners to support steps toward dialogue. This has been Jane Condita, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Budget Secretary Amina Pangandaman says she's open to joining the bicameral deliberations on the proposed 6.793 trillion peso national budget for 2026. Her statement comes after Senator Rodante Marcoleta suggested that the budget chief take part in the talks to ensure transparency and prevent last-minute changes behind closed doors. The secretary called the proposal timely, stressing the need for a more open budget process. Just yesterday, September 2, the Development Budget Coordination Committee continued its presentation before the Senate Committee on Finance. The proposed 2026 National Expenditure Program stands at 6.793 trillion pesos. Lawmakers are expected to scrutinize the budget further in the coming weeks, with debates likely to focus on transparency and accountability. And for sports update, fresh from making history at the US Open, Filipino tennis star Alex Eala opened strong at the Guadalajara 125 in Mexico. Meanwhile, Mavericks legend Dirk Nowitzki shared advice for rookie Cooper Flag as he begins his NBA career in Dallas. More on this with Carlo de la Peña.
Alex Eala wasted no time in dispatching Dutch rival Ariane Hartono, scoring a decisive 6-2, 6-2 victory in just over an hour in their round of 32 showdown. The win also kept her perfect record against Hartono intact at 4-0. At just 20 years old, Eala is now the second seed in the tournament after defending champion Kamila Rakimova suffered a surprise first-round exit. The Filipina tennis ace will next test her skills against veteran Varvara Lepchenko of the United States, a former world number 19 who is nearly 2 decades older at 39. Lepchenko advanced by defeating Australia's Madison Inglis 6-4, 6-1. Eala now aims to capture her first ever WTA Tour crown after coming close with a finals run at the Eastbourne Open earlier this season. Meanwhile, Mavericks legend Dirk Nowitzki shared his thoughts on rookie Cooper Flag's jump to the NBA. Flag, 18, starred at Duke last season, winning the AP Player of the Year, Wooden, and Naismith Awards before being drafted by Dallas. He joins a veteran lineup with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Klay Thompson. Nowitzki advised Flag to learn from his veteran teammates, study their routines, and develop his own leadership style, stressing the importance of staying authentic. He also reminded the young forward that the transition won't be easy, but growth will come through experience. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
Newsline World will be back after the break.
In 2005, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy founded the Sunshine Philippines movement. A mission rooted in love for nature and nation. It began as an environmental and humanitarian initiative to reforest Mount Apo. Once barren, now a thriving and beautiful place. Through his initiative, thousands of trees have been planted across the Philippines, bringing life and hope to communities. His advocacy, One Tree, One Nation, is also a movement that calls for unity in preserving the environment. Because every tree planted is a step towards unity, healing, and a greater future. Join One Tree, One Nation.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman diyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay ng content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen. Magbasa. Makipagkwentuhan. Magdasal. Maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
Sa panahon ng tagulan, hindi lang baha at ulan ang dapat bantayan, kundi pati na rin ang mga sakit na pwedeng makahawa. At dahil ngayon ay rainy season, nagbabala ang Department of Health laban sa tinatawag na wild diseases. 4 na klase ng sakit na karaniwang nakukuha ng tao tuwing maulan. Ito ang W o waterborne diseases gaya ng pagdudumi o gastroenteritis. I o influenza-like illnesses gaya ng sipon, ubo at lagnat. L o leptospirosis na maaaring makuha mula sa ihi ng mga daga sa baha. At D o dengue na dala ng mga lamok. Kapag baha, mas mabilis kumalat ang mikrobyo, kaya't ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at agad maligo matapos lumusong sa baha. Ano ang dapat gawin para maiwasan ang wild diseases? Tumutok sa weather updates. Magsuot ng kapote at bota. Siguraduhing malinis ang iniinom na tubig. Agad kumonsulta sa health center kung may nararamdamang sintomas. Mainam din gawin ang 40 o taob, taktak, tuyo at takip para maiwasan ang dengue sa bahay at komunidad. Maglinis, magmasid, mag-ingat. Labanan ang wild diseases ngayong tagulan. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Maging ligtas, maging handa. Narito ang ilang paalala kung sakaling tumama ang lindol. Maghanda ng emergency kits na may lamang flashlight, pito, first aid kit, tubig at pagkain. Alamin ang emergency exits sa inyong bahay, paaralan o opisina. Habang lumilindol, magtago sa ilalim ng matibay na lamesa upang maprotektahan ang sarili sa mga nahuhulog na bagay. Lumayo sa mga bintana at mabibigat na gamit na maaaring mahulog. Kung ikaw ay nasa labas, lumayo sa mga gusali, puno o poste na maaaring matumba. Kung ikaw ay nagmamaneho, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan at lumabas. Pagkatapos ng lindol, gamitin ang hagdan sa paglabas ng gusali at huwag gumamit ng elevator. Maging alerto sa aftershocks at manatili sa open space kung kinakailangan. Maging ligtas at maging handa sa anumang sakuna. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Brazil's Supreme Federal Court began the verdict and sentencing phase Tuesday in the trial of former President Jair Bolsonaro, who faces more than 40 years in prison over allegations of plotting to overthrow his successor, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. The first session in Brasilia marked the start of the final stage of the historic trial. Bolsonaro did not attend the hearing, where judges stressed their commitment to safeguarding Brazil's democratic institutions. The former leader accused of orchestrating an attempted coup after his 2022 election defeat is being prosecuted under charges that could carry a decades-long sentence. Meanwhile, tensions have risen internationally. United States President Donald Trump imposed a 50% tariff on Brazilian goods last month, accusing Brasilia of politically persecuting Bolsonaro. The Brazilian government condemned the move, calling it illegal interference in its internal affairs.
O Supremo Tribunal Federal sempre será absolutamente inflexível na defesa da soberania nacional e em seu compromisso com a democracia, os direitos fundamentais, o Estado de Direito, a independência do Poder Judiciário Nacional e os princípios constitucionais brasileiros.
A major shakeup in Japan's corporate world. One of the country's most prominent business leaders, Takeshi Ninami, has resigned as chairman and CEO of multinational brewing and distilling company, Suntory, after police raided his home in an investigation over suspected illegal supplements. Hector Kikuzaki has the story.
Yes, presidential election.
Takeshi Ninami, CEO of Suntory and long regarded as one of Japan's most influential executives, stepped down after admitting to police he had purchased supplements believing they were legal. Fukuoka police are still investigating the case, but Suntory says the controversy alone made him unfit to stay on. At a hastily called news conference in Tokyo, Suntory President Nobuhiro Tori apologized, saying the company takes the matter very seriously and regrets the trouble caused. Tori confirmed Ninami disclosed to the company last month that he was under police investigation. An internal inquiry followed and Ninami's resignation was accepted on Monday. Japanese media say the search took place on the 22nd of August. The product is suspected to contain tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, the active component in cannabis. While cannabis-derived products are legally used in the United States for pain relief and other purposes, Japan strictly prohibits possession and use of THC. Japanese police are investigating whether Ninami was aware that the product is subject to legal restrictions in the country. Hector Kikuzaki, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
In South Korea, the line between science fiction and reality is blurring. Imagine taking a late-night stroll through a park and suddenly coming face-to-face with a police officer who isn't human, but a hologram. Fatima Nozil's report looks at how this digital patrolman is reshaping crime prevention in the heart of Seoul.
Every evening in Judong Park, as darkness settles in, this officer appears life-size in uniform with a steady voice. At first glance, it looks like a real officer standing guard. But take a closer look and you'll see he is in flesh and blood. He's a hologram, and his message? In case of an emergency, the police will respond immediately, and CCTV is installed here. The assistant officer, as it's called, is part of Seoul's high-tech experiment to bring more safety into public spaces without adding more boots on the ground.
기획 의도가 굉장히 집요하고 아주 추진력이 좋더라고요. 그래서 사실 한 3개월 정도 계속 고민을 하시다가 이 방식대로 하게 됐죠. 그런데 생각보다 지금 반응이 좋아서 좀 당황하고 있어요.
And the results are already being felt since its launch late last year. Police say crime in the area has dropped by 22%. The hologram appears every 2 minutes between 7 and 10 p.m., just enough to keep watch and to keep would-be troublemakers guessing.
저도 설치하고 나와서 시민분들을 많이 만나봤는데 제일 많이 하시는 말씀이 멀리서 봤을 때 실제 경찰관 같기도 하고 평소에 보지 못하던 유형의 모습이다 보니까 시선이 많이 간다고 하더라고요.
Still, the hologram isn't here to chase criminals. It can't run down suspects or make an arrest. Its power lies in the mind. Its presence alone is enough to nudge behavior in the right direction.
한국은 되게 전 세계적으로 사실 범죄율이 되게 낮다라는 거는 이제 많이 통계적으로 나오고 있는데 그럼에도 불구하고 이런 사각지대는 계속 존재하고 있거든요. 사실 이런 것들이 없어도 이제 국민 인식이 많이 더 바뀌고 좀 더 선진화될 수 있다면 이런 것들이 사실 보이지 않는 곳에 존재하지 않더라도 저희가 이제 근본적으로 좀 더 평화로운 사회를 좀 더 살아갈 수 있는 좀 이런 기반이 되었으면 좋겠다라는 거는 저는 생각은 합니다.
For now, Seoul's hologram cop stands watch, a futuristic blend of policing and technology, a nightly reminder that sometimes the mere sight of law and order, even a digital one, can be enough to make a difference. Reporting this has been Fatima Nozul, SMNI News.
A devastating earthquake in eastern Afghanistan has left thousands dead and injured, and how Amnesty International is calling for urgent global aid. The group is urging the Taliban to allow unhindered humanitarian access as survivors struggle with the aftermath of the 6.0 magnitude earthquake. Rahil Parba reports.
Amnesty International has issued an urgent call for humanitarian aid in response to the worsening crisis caused by the recent 6.0 magnitude earthquake that struck eastern Afghanistan on the 31st of August. According to the reports, the earthquake completely destroyed villages in the provinces of Kunar, Nangarhar, and Lagman, leaving thousands dead and injured and thousands of families homeless. In a statement, Babu Rampant, Deputy Regional Director of Amnesty International, urged Taliban authorities to ensure immediate and unhindered access for humanitarian organizations. He also emphasized that aid must be distributed without discrimination and priority should be given to those most at risk, including women, children, the elderly, and the people with disabilities. Amnesty also stressed that nearly 22 million Afghans are already in need of assistance due to multiple ongoing crises, donor withdrawal, and mass deportations. Meanwhile, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, or IFRC, launched an emergency appeal worth in Swiss francs to support the urgent needs of affected communities. This is Verhil Parba, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Putin and Zelensky are still not ready to sit down for a summit, despite renewed talks about possible negotiations. Let's find out more about this report with Angel Pastor.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Russian leader Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky are still not ready to sit down and talk. Erdogan made the remarks after meeting with Putin in China and speaking separately with Zelensky by phone. Speaking to reporters on his way back from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit, Erdogan said Turkey continues to push for peace-focused dialogue and remains in contact with both sides. The Turkish president pointed to past mediation efforts like the Black Sea Grain Deal and prisoner exchanges as proof that Ankara can help broker progress. But he added, both leaders, while open in principle, are not yet ready for a face-to-face summit. During their bilateral meeting, Putin told Erdogan that Turkey's mediation role will remain valuable moving forward. Meanwhile, Kremlin officials sought to cool expectations. Aide Yuri Yushakov said Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump had discussed raising the level of negotiating teams, but stressed that no decisions have been finalized. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov echoed that position, saying Putin does not rule out a future summit with Zelensky, but warned any such meeting must be thoroughly prepared at the expert level. U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly pushed for direct talks between Russia and Ukraine. Following his August summit with Putin in Alaska, Trump told reporters he expects a trilateral meeting with Putin and Zelensky to happen, though he acknowledged that a one-on-one summit between the two leaders remains uncertain. Trump has also previously said that Putin and Zelensky dislike each other.
They don't like each other, really.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
A new wave of deportations targeting Rohingya refugees in Jammu has drawn sharp condemnation from human rights groups and international organizations. Critics describe India's actions as inhumane and a violation of basic rights. This report from Erica Rio.
Footage from makeshift camp in Jammu shows harsh living conditions. Shelters patched together with fabric, rubbish piling up in open spaces, and no clean water or proper sanitation. Floods frequently wash away tents, while disease and malnutrition threaten the refugees' survival. Since May, India has expelled numerous Rohingya refugees from the Indian-administered Kashmir region, sending some to Bangladesh and others directly to Myanmar. Officials label them illegal immigrants and justify the measures on grounds of national security.
हम लोग पूरा जिंदगी यहाँ पे बिताने के लिए नहीं आई। वहाँ पे जिनसस होने के बाद मेरा समय मेरा बेटी गया था, मेरा समय मेरा बहन जो रेप किया हुआ है। लेकिन ऐसे हालत में हम लोग को सारे चीन लिया था, लेकिन वहाँ पे जिनसस होने के बाद फिर जान बचाने के लिए हम लोग पूरा जान तो बचाने के लिए फिर हम लोग आई थी यहाँ पे इंडिया में।
India's Supreme Court has refused to block the deportations, ruling that the Rohingya, defined as foreigners, have no legal right to remain in the country.
मैं इधर बहुत मुश्किल गुजारा करता है, क्या जुबी के लिए बांधने के लिए पैसा नहीं है, खाना के लिए मुश्किल है, बच्चा को पढ़ाने के लिए बहुत मुश्किल है, नहीं तो इधर मुश्किल में गुजारा करता है। जुबी के लिए जगह जरूर है, मेरे के लिए रहने के लिए बहुत मुश्किल की गुजारा करता है इधर।
The camp offers little hope for improvement. Recent floods destroyed several shelters, leaving many refugees without even basic protection.
हम ये गुजारिश कर रहे हैं सरकार को भी, पब्लिक को भी, हम लोग को कोई इंजू या राशन पानी या बाढ़ जो आया, किसी का जुगी लेके गया, किसी का कोई जान भी लेके गया, पहले बच्चा भी गुम हो गया, 2-3 बच्चा मिला ही नहीं है अभी तक। तो इसीलिए गुजारिश कर रहा हूँ सरकार को, मेहरबानी करके हम लोग भी इंसान हैं, इंसान के तौर पर हम लोग को भी नजर दिया जाए, मेहरबानी करके।
The Rohingya, a stateless Muslim minority from Myanmar, have long faced persecution and mass violence. Refugees here say their children are growing up without education or security.
हम तो सुबह शाम रात दिन तो हम मजबूर है किसी के मदद के लिए, हम तड़पा रहे क्योंकि हमारा पास ना रहने के लिए जगह है, ना पढ़ने के लिए बच्चा को कोई ऐसे स्कूल वगैरह है, कुछ भी नहीं है। हम हर टाइम सुबह शाम हम किसी की मदद का इंतजार में बैठा हूँ क्योंकि हमारा हालत तो बहुत खराब है, हम कैसे जी रहे।
With India stepping up deportations, human rights groups warn that many refugees are being forced back into danger, leaving their future in uncertainty. This is Erica Rio, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
And it's all come back in fresh starts. Cardi B walks away from a $24 million lawsuit with a courtroom victory, while Pixar gears up to bring Toy Story back to the big screen ahead of its 5th installment. Here's Andrea Santos for our latest showbiz update.
Grammy-winning rapper Cardi B is celebrating a major courtroom victory. A California jury has dismissed a $24 million civil assault lawsuit against her, ending a legal battle that began back in 2018. The case stemmed from an encounter outside the Beverly Hills OBGYN clinic where former security guard Emmanuelis accused Cardi of scratching her, spitting, and using racial slurs. Cardi, who was pregnant at the time, admitted to a heated exchange but denied ever laying a hand on Alice. After less than an hour of deliberation, jurors unanimously sided with the superstar, finding no evidence of physical assault. Medical staff from the clinic, including Cardi's doctor, also testified they witnessed no attack. With the case now behind her, Cardi B is turning the page. She's gearing up to release her highly anticipated second studio album, Am I the Drama, set for release on September 19. For Cardi, it's not just a legal win. It's a chance to refocus on her music and her fans. To 30th year and beyond, Pixar's beloved classic Toy Story is heading back to the big screen. In celebration of its legacy, Disney and Pixar have announced that the original 1995 animated hit will return to theaters this fall for a limited re-release, marking nearly 3 decades since Woody, Buzz, and the gang first changed the world of animation forever. Fans also got a fresh look at the franchise's future. Newly released images from the highly anticipated Toy Story 5 are creating plenty of buzz ahead of its official release on June 19, 2026. The sequel will bring back beloved favorites like Woody and Buzz, while also introducing a new character, Smarty Pants, a potty training toy voiced by Conan O'Brien. It's the next chapter in a billion-dollar franchise that has touched generations of moviegoers. And with both a nostalgic re-release and a brand new adventure on the way, Toy Story is once again proving that some friendships really do go to infinity and beyond. This is Andrea Santos, your citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
A day at the amusement park turned into a life-saving mission for one Pennsylvania dad whose quick thinking and bravery saved a young boy from danger on the monorail tracks. Sherilyn Lanillo for this story.
A dramatic rescue at Hershey Park is drawing nationwide praise after a young boy was spotted walking along the park's closed monorail tracks over the weekend. Video from the scene shows the child high above the ground as bystanders shouted in alarm, but one man, John Sampson of Bucks County, didn't hesitate to act. Sampson, a father of 3, was watching over his family's belongings when he noticed the boy in trouble. Despite the fear of heights, he scaled the roof of a snack stand, then pulled himself up onto the tracks. In front of a tense crowd, he reached the boy and safely carried him back down. Hershey Entertainment and Resorts confirmed the boy had been reported missing just before 5 p.m. Saturday. Officials said he managed to enter a closed, secured monorail station before walking onto the tracks. Fortunately, he was unharmed. Sampson said the boy's parents personally thanked him the next morning. What could have been a tragedy ended with relief and gratitude, thanks to the quick action of a father who put aside his own fears to bring a child to safety. Sherilyn Lanillo, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
And before we end, may be inspired with the words of the sun. Good work is excellent work. And as we keep track of the countdown, we only have 113 days left before Christmas. And that is for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I am Franco Baranda. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.